All right, guys, I'm here with James Lyons-Weiler.
Vaccine power.
Yeah, I'm here with James Lyons-Weiler, and he is a. What? Tell me all of your certifications, because I know you have
I'm
a
the
lot.
CEO and director of the Institute for Pure and Applied Knowledge in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a PhD and a dad, and I spend my time. Come on through. Now, come on through. I spend my time doing biomedical research for the past 17, 18 years.
Yeah, and don't you have a zoology degree, and you're also, aren't you an evolutionary biologist too?
Yeah, I'm evolutionary.
And you're humble.
Yeah.
You're humble.
I have a PhD,
I know. I was listening. Your mom's like, dang, like how long were you in school? Like forever.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When MDs get their PhDs and they get an MD PhD, they do it in a pretty short period of time. I spent 7 years in graduate school before I got my PhD.
Oh, wow. But that's still a lot after. So
Well, I mean, you have to learn proper study design. You have to learn proper statistical analysis. But I was at the University of Pittsburgh in the Department of Pathology in the University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute, full faculty there. I did over 100 research studies with scientists from, medical and public health people from all over the campus in about 7 years that I was there. I designed the studies, get the data, I'd analyze the studies, help write up the paper or the grant proposal. It was great. Loved it.
Yeah. So what is as a scientist, what are the criticisms that you see or what got you into the criticizing vaccines?
Well, understanding vaccine risk came to me by writing a chapter on vaccines. I had a book called Cures versus Profits, and the manuscript was sent off to the publisher. The publisher said, "This is great. Can you add another chapter?" And I said, "Sure, I'll add a chapter on vaccines. Everyone knows that they're safe and effective, right?" This was before vaccines are safe and effective was a thing in the media.
Yeah.
It was not that long ago, actually. The book came out in 2015. So I had written a book on Ebola, and then I wrote this book, Cures versus Profits, with the chapter in it. And the problem, my criticism of vaccines was that the science that was done ostensibly to show the vaccines are safe fell far short of, fell far short of, have a good night. The science that was done to show the vaccines are safe fell far short of the quality, the types of studies that I was expecting to find.
Wow.
And it all began with Brian Hooker's interview, recording of the whistleblower, Dr. William Thompson of the CDC, because he said that every study that the CDC published on vaccine safety was sent to a committee to be sanitized, so if there was anything wrong found with the vaccines, that they minimized the appearance of something wrong in the study before it was published. And that's not science. I call that science-like activities.
Yeah,
That's a problem. Yeah, sure.
You said you were a zoologist?
Weiler, yeah.
Huh?
No, zoologist.
You're a zoologist, right?
Well, I have a master's in zoology. Yeah, that was many
You heard
years
of
ago.
Charles Henry Turner?
I'm sorry?
You heard of Charles Henry Turner?
No.
First African American zoologist, got his
cool.
PhD.
Cool.
And he was the first one to discover that insects could hear and change behavior based off experiences.
Oh, nice.
I heard you say you was
What's
a
his
zoologist.
name?
Charles Henry Turner.
Okay, I'll look him up. I gotta finish this now.
Okay.
Charles Henry Turner, ladies and gentlemen, first African American zoologist in the United States.
In the United States.
Very good.
Okay.
The intellectual contributions of our.
Yeah. But I just wanted to ask him that. But it's something else, but I'll wait till after.
Yeah. Let me
Yeah,
just
sure,
finish this.
sure.
Okay, I appreciate
Thanks.
it. So I'm just curious. You seem very open-minded as a scientist, and I know people that probably would have taken on maybe writing a chapter on vaccines, and still just kind of regurgitated a lot of the same rhetoric that they've been, conditioned and indoctrinated
Right.
to print or write about.
Right.
So what changed? Why are you different?
I was different because I realized if the vaccine safety studies that were being published by CDC and people who are contracted by CDC were not objective science, then and they're used on the entire population, we really don't know the health effects of vaccines. And that's a big, big issue. Because if we don't know the full health effects of vaccines, positive, negative, we just don't know the full health effects, then we probably shouldn't allow the continued practice of adding more and more and more and more vaccines to the pediatric schedule. Basically, because I love kids. I love people. I don't like people to see.
Yeah.
I don't like to see kids suffer. I hate human pain and suffering.
Yeah, well, they come after everybody too. It's not just kids. I think.
No, I know, but that's what really got me. Understanding. Of course, the big question. I'm a father, and the big question was about autism too. And so after I wrote that chapter, I decided to go and, well, just because the CDC fudged the data on a study or two on autism, right, doesn't mean vaccines cause autism. I grew concerned over the possibility that vaccines may cause autism. So I went to the scientific literature and I read 2,000 studies on autism to find out for myself.
And those are the people that say that there are no studies.
Yeah, it was funny because they were lecturing me about. They said, "Well, you're going to have to show me a study that shows type replacement in HPV." Right, so I gave him a study. He goes, "You shouldn't base your answer on one study. If you're a real scientist, you'd have more." And I had already said that there's many other studies that show type replacement. But anyway, the point being, I read these 2,000 studies and put them into a book called "The Environmental and Genetic Causes of Autism." And now that's out, it shows the basic science, the animal studies, right, the epidemiologic studies. It's got 2,000. It's got 1,000 references in it. I read 2,000, but it's got 1,000 references in it. It's a huge compendium of knowledge.
So I know it's not. I would say a large majority from my anecdotal experience has been vaccines. I have one friend whose child became autistic after anesthesia. So it seems like they're like epigenetic factors or like external factors. That
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's epigenetics, there's diet, there's the gut, right? The first thing is the gut. But my book was really focused on the mechanisms. What science is out there that show mechanisms? So we know valproic acid, for instance, can cause autism, right? But at the time I wrote the book,
what is that? Sorry.
Valproic acid is a drug that's used to treat depression, and if moms take it during pregnancy, the kid can be.
What? So wait, is it the name of a drug or is it a component in?
It's the chemical name of a drug called valproic acid. Valproate, I think, is another name for it. But this drug is known to cause autism, and then there are pesticides in it known to contribute. And so there's a variety of environmental toxins. And in studying all this, what I came up with was the idea that autism is an acquired cellular detoxification deficiency syndrome. And so if we can't detoxify because the metals like mercury and aluminum have impaired our ability to detoxify, then these kids are going to pull in all kinds of toxins from their environment, all kinds of things that their parents bring home. Just, compounds from gasoline that happens to be...
like a filter, right?
Yeah, they suck it up and they keep it in. And that's what we see. We see organic pollutants are increased in kids with autism by far, much higher than neurotypical. And the worse the behavior of the kid, the more total serum organic pollutants they're carrying. So detoxification, clean living, getting the metals out so you can detoxify safely, that's important. Those should be the research priorities. Because here we're in New Jersey. No, we're in Harlem. Sorry, I slept in. I stayed in a hotel last night in New Jersey, but I just came from New Jersey. That state has not just the highest amount of autism for any state in the United States. It's the highest rates of autism anywhere.
How about, is Mississippi close?
Yeah, I mean, Mississippi's close, but 1 in 25 is pretty scary.
Wow, yeah.
So looking at that, then we say, well, what's different about New Jersey? Well, New Jersey is not the cleanest place on the planet. Sorry, New Jerseyans. Sorry, about your tourism. But
you're New Jerseyans. That's racist against New Jerseyans.
Well, that's a big wide swath. The point is, it would be really interesting to pick a place like New Jersey and say we're going to totally clean up corporate toxins and clean the air, clean the water, clean the food supply, clean everything. Get all the lead out of the pipes, improve water quality, and all at the same time pull those toxins out of our kids and our pregnant moms, right? If I was a mom and I was going to become pregnant, I would start detoxifying years before I became pregnant. It's really important not to...
I started that. I had my amalgam films removed and
and it has to be done safely, right, by a biological dentist.
I went to American Biodental. Do you know that?
Good. No, I don't.
I know, they're amazing. They're in Mexico now, but they do the Huggins protocol, or not the... I think it's the Huggins protocol. Anyway, they do the rubber dam and the circulatory stuff, and other stuff that they make sure.
They won't let anything fall in.
Yeah, they won't let anything fall in. They're cleaning up the air as they're doing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you don't get the mercury vapors.
Yeah. They what's his name? Dr. John Bergman. He's doing a partnership with him. Do you know?
Cool.
John Bergman?
I've heard of him.
Okay, yeah. So he opened up a clinic with them, and they're doing anyway.
That's amazing. So anyway, the institute that I run is called the IPAC, the Institute for Apparent Applied Knowledge. And we have a new study out, it's just published, and it's on aluminum. And if you use the math that was used by the FDA, we calculated that a so-called safe dose of aluminum is like 14.5 micrograms per kilogram per day in a newborn. Well, we inject 250 micrograms on the first day of life in Hep B, right? And so the question became, how many days in the first 7 months of life and first 2 years on the CDC program are kids in aluminum toxicity beyond the safe level? And we found that kids that get vaccinated according to CDC's schedule are expected to be in aluminum toxicity over 70% of the days in the first 7 months of life. Now this compares to the vaccine-friendly plan by Paul Thomas. That vaccine-friendly plan, they're only expected to be in aluminum toxicity 5% of their days in the first 7 months of life. And Dr. Paul and I think that that's too much, as it is. Okay, so we're doing everything that we can do to communicate the reality of the toxicity of aluminum, to find out what it really looks like, because the FDA didn't do this. The FDA used oral doses of aluminum in adult mice to assess the safety of injected forms in infant humans. You can't get there from here, right? That's an expression in New England. Yeah.
Well, I have 2 more questions. First of all, my best, I knew about your work because my best friend, we researched together. She told me about you, and then she was saying that you were saying, she sent me an article in which you were saying that you thought anti-vaxxers were selfish at the time. What made you change your mind?
Right. So that I in my book on Ebola, I said the anti-vaxxers are going to kill the world. You know, I used to lecture my sister for not vaccinating her kids.
Oh wow!
And what changed it was writing that chapter on vaccines.
Wait, your sister didn't vaccinate her kids at all?
No, she's got 10. She's born again Christian, and she raised 10 kids unvaccinated in Western New York. She's good.
Are they healthy?
Oh yeah. Oh, they're so healthy and bright.
Do they like fly and like lift cars up with their hands and stuff like that?
Almost, yes. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you. Well, then, yeah, I'm interviewing, but thank you so
nice
much.
to meet you
I really
too.
appreciate you coming.
So,
sorry, she's one of the
panelists.
Yeah, the panelists on the row side, but she's really sweet. So. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Really nice to meet you. Thank you. So I spent this time writing this chapter and looking at the science and finding that the science was really, really shoddy. It was bad science, and it wasn't, there wasn't enough of it. So the vaccine, the CDC's website says vaccines do not cause autism. I would expect that every vaccine was tested for autism.
Isn't it shocking?
No, it's not.
Shocking.
Not anymore. But now it is.
Like when you first started doing the research, I think a lot of people assume that this science has been done. So like, duh.
Right. So how does the CDC know that vaccines don't cause autism when they haven't tested all the vaccines? Yeah. My first presentation at Life University down in Atlanta, Georgia, on vaccines, I concluded that they must use magic because they're not using science to know this. They must be using magic.
They're psychic. All right. Okay. Well, one more. Since you have been critical. Have you been attacked by other scientists?
Actually, the funny thing was, the first article that I wrote about vaccines is called "The Farmables Are Loose." Okay, and I was attacked immediately, and the reason part that helped drive me down the rabbit hole. They actually attacked me so viciously for saying things that I thought were objective.
Yeah.
Like, where are you guys all coming from? Are you some like cultish religion or something?
Yeah, because we differ a little bit. I'm a little bit more radical. James is still but I respect. We can have that respect. But I just feel like even if you differ a little bit and you're objective, people lose their mind. It's insane. You know?
No, I'm definitely for informed consent and I'm pro-choice, right? So people say, are you anti-vaccine? Well, I'm not. People accuse me of being anti-vaccine when I say that the current vaccines are filthy, nasty vials of toxic sludge. I mean the current vaccine. I mean the vaccines that are on the vaccine schedule right now with aluminum and the flu shots with mercury. That's filthy and disgusting to take up a metal that's a known neurotoxin and inject it into your baby. It's not something that I would ever do again in terms of the metals, but I might look for vaccines that don't have the metals. That's what the vaccine-friendly plan is all about. It spaces them out. He skips some that seem superfluous, like Hep B on the first day of life, and he swaps. He doesn't use any flu vaccines with thimerosal, and he swaps out aluminum-containing vaccines for non-aluminum versions. And so you have the option as a consumer
So what takes place? Squalene or something?
No, they are non-adjuvanted, but he does for the hip. I think for one, he does use an aluminum-containing vaccine for hip. But I've studied his schedule, and it's much less aluminum, like incredibly lower amounts of aluminum. Yeah.
I was watching him on Highwire, and he was saying even the unvaccinated kids are the most healthy. So why wouldn't you just, you know what I mean? He was saying the vaccine kids are the most healthy. The partially vaccinated or vaccine kids on the schedule are not as healthy as the unvaccinated kids, and the fully vaccinated kids are the least healthy.
You're talking about his autism results, right? So those were a peek at the data. The autism
Was it
results.
Paul Thomas?
Yeah, it was Paul Thomas. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't autism. He was just saying in general.
Well, we did. We haven't. He
Okay.
has. We're not. We
Okay,
haven't
so maybe
published
I'm
those
thinking of
results
something.
yet. But Dr.
Okay.
Paul Thomas has a book called The Vaccine Friendly Plan,
Okay.
and there appears to be more autism in the kids that are fully vaccinated than the kids that are on the vaccine friendly plan, and there's virtually no autism. There's like one case of autism in his practice among the unvaccinated. We have 681 unvaccinated kids, and why would he?
Autoimmune diseases. Are you allowed to
Yeah,
talk
no, they're
about-
off the roof in the vaccinated.
Yeah.
We haven't published it yet, but it's coming. This is a purely independent research study on vaccines and the chronic and the health conditions that are associated with vaccines. And people don't want me to do the study. It's too bad. The public's paying for this. The public wants science. I had the public chanting for science.
Yeah.
This vaccine risk aware anti-vax public chanting for science on the Washington Green. So people that say that anti-vaxxers are anti-science are full of it.
Yeah. And why don't you think they want to do meaning the vaccine enthusiasts and the vaccine versus unvax study? Because you would think that they would want to prove that their side is right, that vaccines are healthy. Why does it keep getting shut down or sabotaged, or people don't want to do it, or they keep making frivolous excuses?
They're afraid people will stop using vaccines. And that would make them then have to update their product and make a safer vaccine. And then they would lose their contract. See, the people that have the $1 billion contracts with CDC, they have all the power. They've captured the regulatory agencies, they've captured the CDC, they've captured a lot of senators and congressmen. I hate to say it. They make major contributions at the state level, and they make billions of dollars hands over fist for vaccines. And so they monetize, say, the MMR. But why not bring another vaccine on the market? Well, now they are. When they did the GSK version of the MMR, they found that the risk of adverse events from GSK were the same as the MMR because they compared it to the MMR. They didn't compare it to saline placebo. Well, so there's going to be this continuation of vaccination until the population wakes up and says, these particular vaccines, they need to, you can put anything into a vaccine if you're a vaccine manufacturer. The only component that has to be safety tested prior to being put in the vaccine is the protein. And they don't even do that. But they could literally put gasoline in a vaccine and injection into your child, and the FDA would have nothing to say about it.
Like the Corvelva. You know about the Corvelva?
Yeah, they found a bunch of stuff in there,
They
didn't
found
they?
stuff that they didn't even, they're like, what is this? We don't know.
It's
we don't know
crazy,
what it
and they
is.
found that the antigens that are supposed to be there weren't even
in
there.
it, yeah.
Right? Because guess what? These proteins, they interact with proteins, and they make different kinds of proteins together.
It's insane.
Who knew? Biology.
I know. And it's the thing about the biological science is really frustrating is that, lay people have to be dependent on kind of like trusting, what other people say. As in the physical science, if you build a car and it doesn't work, then, it proves itself. So
Right.
There's a lot of, politics, and there's a lot of, conflicts of interest and personal interest that's in.
Oh yeah, doctor will. You see, a doctor will say about a kid that had a seizure. Right? We don't know what caused it, but we know it wasn't the vaccine. How do they know it wasn't the vaccine?
They didn't look at it. It's
How do
crazy.
they know it wasn't? It's like magic,
Yeah,
right?
and if we're not looking at vaccines, we're not going to find, we're not going to be honest about it. We're not going to find cures to any of these diseases. So. Oh, okay. Wait a minute, let me just sign up
This
really
is my
fast.
new best friend.
Yeah, she's my new best friend.
Yes.
And my new best friend here. We're all new best
Yeah,
friends.
hi. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, 1 second. let me
Yeah,
just
no,
sign-
finish.
Okay, so where can they find you? And what like books? And so
Thank you. So I run the IPAC, the Institute for Pure and Applied Knowledge. Go to ipaknowledge.org. Okay, we have just published that aluminum study. We're about to publish the Vaxxed Unvaxxed study. right? And I'm helping Paul Thomas with his FOI study. This is Public Health Outcomes Initiative. It's a 10-year prospective study, right? But we have other studies that are ongoing too. You can also find me at the WWDNYK studios doing Unbreaking Science. Look up #Unbreaking Science. This is I'd love to have you on the podcast. Yeah, let's do it. And so, and you can look up jameslyons-weiler.com. I think I have 150 articles that I've written there about these issues and other issues. And of course, I'm all over social media. You can follow me on Twitter at LifeBiomedGuru, which the other side loves to pick on me. Who made me a guru, you know? So I'm not that modest.
Yeah, are you like a Sith Lord like Suzanne Humphries?
Am I who what?
A Sith Lord? You know, Borat calls us Suzanne Humphries.
Yeah.
Or the Sith Lord, have you reached that status?
I'm a scientist. I'm just a scientist here, you know.
It's a lot of pressure. Okay. It's
just a scientist. We make observations, we test hypotheses, we analyze data, we do the publications. The rest of the society has to figure out what to do with the knowledge that we generate.
Very true. Thank you so much for being open-minded. Thanks for being my partner today. And just giving
Thank you. You rock, by the way. You're so intelligent.
Oh, thank you. I got to say goodbye to dinner, but all right, guys, peace, truth, love. I'll talk to you later. Bye.